Hey, good people. So today I've got an incredible guest. She's a successful blogger who writes mainly on psychology. So we're going to talk about the mind or human nature, and then we're going to speak about blogging and entrepreneurship. This could really change your life economically, so stay right there. Hey everyone, great having you. Today I'm so happy to be joined by Zulie Rane. Zulie is a writer on medium.com. She also runs a fast growing YouTube channel where she teaches people how to become successful bloggers online. She walks you through everything you need to know to be profitable on the platform. As a fellow contributor to Medium myself, I found her insights invaluable. Guys, if you have a perspective you want to share and are looking for a side hustle, make sure to subscribe to her. I decided to have Zulie on to talk about, well, Medium, obviously, and entrepreneurship a little bit, but also some overlap which exists between our content and the way of psychology, which she frequently writes about. In fact, let's start there, Zulie. You studied biology in university, right? Why didn't you choose to write on that? Like, what about psychology in particular interests you so much?
Well, like a lot of people, I got my degree in something I thought I was good at rather than something that I really enjoyed. When I was in high school, I wanted to study psychology, and my parents told me that the only people who study psychology are people who have something wrong with them. And that kind of put me off, to be honest. So I went for biology because, I liked it. It was fine. I enjoyed learning about animals and cells, etc. So I ended up getting 2 degrees actually in biology, my undergraduate as well as a master's in bird conservation. But
Wow.
when I sat down to start writing, I found that I did originally try to write more about biology. My very early stories did have some more animal oriented ones, but the more I tried to write about that, the more I found I wanted to write about what I was interested in, what made people tick, why did people act the way they did, and most importantly, how that has ramifications on the world around us. Like, if you can figure out why people act a certain way, then you can explain a lot of the really weird stuff that happens on Twitter, in politics, all kinds of weird places. And I found that very satisfying.
And you do have a very broad set of topics that you do talk about in psychology. What would you say is your favorite psychological thing to study?
Um, Gosh, I think I like thinking about how people act online. Whether that's I've done some really fun ones on like scams, how people try to scam people online
Yeah.
using psychology to explain why we fall for it, how it works, why we do that. I find the intersection of kind of culture online with psychology really interesting.
Yeah, it is fascinating. How has your psychological research informed your views towards entrepreneurship in particular?
Well, I think one of the things that's probably the most prevalent thing has been that there's a lot of feeling in everything we do. Even those who think that we're very objective, logical, analytical people. Like I did my conservation research. It was mostly looking at numbers of birds. And I thought I was a very logical person. But doing all this research into psychology, even just as a hobby, it made me realize that everything we do comes from feelings normally, not facts. And
Mhm.
that, I mean, it sounds basic, but understand driven by our emotions, not by what we think we know, has actually really changed how I deal with my business. I try to trust my gut a lot more because I know I'll be doing it anyway. So I might as well be conscious of the fact that I am. And I try to build relationships with people as well because I know that how they deal with me, no matter how stellar I may look on paper, it's gonna come a lot more down to how they feel about me as a person. I think that's, I mean, yeah, those two factors I think have probably made the most impact on how I view entrepreneurship.
Yeah, but it's not all just about making money. I mean, it's how you interact with everybody, and everyone should have an interest in that, really, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's you're so right. Actually, is like I love I love to make money, no doubt about it. But I also like to work with people who I like working with. I think we're all the same like that.
Oh, of course. Well, we often hear about type A personalities, right? Or that self-starter with the Midas touch, something which you're probably accustomed to people attributing to you. Is it possible, in your opinion, to become this kind of person? Like, let's face it, a lot of folks just don't have that self-starting gear. Is it something that we can work at?
I never thought I was ambitious. I never saw myself as a manager. I never thought that I would want to start my own company. I didn't ever think that I had that drive. For a lot of my life, I was perfectly happy being managed by other people, having bosses who told me what to do. I thought I wanted to be told in specific instructions how to do my work, live my life, etc. And I think it took me finding my passion, honestly, to want to break out of that, to start building my own business and career on my by myself. I'm driven not by, yeah, I guess it. I'm trying to think what the turning point was for me. I think when I was doing, I've got a career in like doing tech support,
Wow.
IT kind of stuff, relationship management, like account management for bigger tech accounts, stuff like that. And yeah, I didn't really care about that. I enjoyed it. It was fine, but I didn't care when somebody told me what to do because I had no deep feelings or thoughts on it. I was happy to take instruction. But then on writing, because I love writing and I love content creation, that's finding that passion was what made me want to become my own boss and find that drive inside myself that was there all along.
You seem to be a lot like me with regards to like we've been in different fields throughout our life. And I know personally, I've always had ants in my pants. I always want to try this and that. And I really struggled personally with deciding on what my passion is. Was
Mm-hmm.
it hard for you to decide that, okay, writing is my crack?
It was honestly, although I say that I have known that I wanted to be a writer since I think I was 8.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted to be a novelist though, so I read voraciously, like almost 100% fiction. I love, love, love to read, and I finished a book when I was like, yeah, 7 or 8. I closed it and I looked at the back cover where it tells you who wrote it, and I realized that books don't just pop into existence; somebody has to write them, and I was like, okay, done. That can be me. Then reality sets in. You realize that most people can't just become novelists. A lot of people have their own work that they do around that. Most people aren't successful enough. And then I kind of fell into blogging by accident. I've always liked writing. Like I loved writing essays in high for my degree. I really enjoyed writing my thesis. I like writing tweets. I like writing emails. I like writing, but I never realized that it could become a whole career to do this freelance blogging on the side. Yeah, does that answer your question? Sorry, I
Oh,
started
of
rambling
course
a
it
little.
does. Yeah, it does very much. What is the single greatest psychological tip you can give those who desire to become more entrepreneurial?
Gosh, nothing springing to mind immediately. I don't want to give something hacky. I want to cite something specific. I think, you know what? No, actually, I'm going to go back to basics. I think the best thing you can do to become more entrepreneurial is to remember that no person is an island. Everyone relies on other people, their network, their relationships. And the best way you can build those relationships is to remember and use people's names. It's one of my favorite fiction tropes, actually. The idea that if you know someone's true name, you have like a power over them. And it's true in real life. People are really, really bad at remembering names and using them frequently in conversation. Like 9 out of 10 people will say, oh, sorry, I'm just bad at names. If you become that person who's good at names, who remembers that sound that is the most important thing to people, you can start building better relationships and they will help you on your journey to entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting you say that. I like that line you mentioned earlier because it isn't that someone's name that's the hardest thing to remember. I find the hardest thing to remember is to use their name within the first 3 seconds or whatever the rule is.
Yeah.
While your writing often intersects psychology with entrepreneurship, I found your broader psychological writings very useful for everyday life. I mean, here are just a few titles. The 3 Traits of Toxic Listeners, 5 Habits of Authentic Morning People you can easily borrow. I could probably use that one. A scientific trick to elevate your empathy and creativity. 6 Traits of Deeply Self-Destructive People. How have these explorations into human behavior and mind enriched your interaction with others?
I think I think a lot of it comes down to one thing. I am a very judgy person. It's one of my biggest flaws. I see people and I judge them instantly based off of very few things they do. And if I happen to catch them on a bad day or, they've just gone through something difficult or any of the other random things that can cause you to not portray your best self to someone on the first meeting, I do kind of struggle to move past that. And I think writing all these psychological self-help type things has made me realize that there are so many reasons somebody can be having a bad day. And there are a lot of valid ways to try to look at them with compassion and empathy rather than judgment, which is, like I said, my normal go-to. So I think I write these articles to try to give myself a leg up in helping understand other people more. And that seems to resonate with a lot of people because, like I said, the psychology stuff I write tends to do really well. So I think a lot of us just like to understand why people are acting the way they are, and yeah, just get a better insight into why people are the way that they are.
Well, I mean, and that's something that I've struggled with too, is like judging people when there might be a perfectly scientific explanation for why what we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is your favorite piece, or what are your favorite pieces on mental science that you've written about?
I wrote this one a couple of months back. They're all my babies. It's hard to pick just one. It was on how to use psychology to make a better first impression, and I like it because I think first impressions are at once overrated, but also not taken seriously enough. People think that they can just show up, smile, shake hands, move on with their lives, that they've left the best possible impression. And I like this story because it addressed you can do more with a first impression than just like make eye contact, shake a hand, and dress smartly. You can use positive language to try to trick people, not trick, but highlight the why people should think of you as a positive force in their life. While also realizing that if somebody doesn't leave the best first impression, it's not the end of the world. You can still catch up, and it's not. You shouldn't necessarily judge anyone you meet based on the first 30 seconds that you spend with them.
That's a tough one, hey, because like I find personally, I really am absorbed into psychology, kind of like how you are there, right? And I find that I can sometimes get so absorbed in that that it's almost like turning a monitor back on itself, where now you become kind of self-conscious of every, in your uh first time you're meeting somebody, your first impressions,
Mm-hmm.
you become so self-conscious of what you're doing that you forget to interact with people. Is there anything that you've have found helps you with that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in one way, during a pandemic, I'm not meeting that many people in person. That definitely helps. But on a more serious note, yeah, I think you do have to give yourself a little bit of grace. Nobody is perfect, especially not people who write self help. We're all just trying to make the best of awkward situations, just like everyone else. And I think, yeah, rather than trying to fit 100 rules about good behavior into your head before you meet someone for the first time or before you go on a first date or whatever, honestly, the best psychology hacks are the classic ones. Stay true to yourself and
Mhm.
just try to bring your best self forward. um, yeah, I think just remembering that there's not like a checklist, or it's not, people are not like machines where if you push the right buttons, they'll think more positively of you. It's a lot more subjective than that, no matter how much psychological self help you read, like me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's kind of one of those things that it's more like a slow trickle of water will sort of leave this residue, instead of thinking that, as you said, it's like a checklist that you got to go through. It's more like, just having psychology in the forefront of your mind, these little tips, like some of those ones that I read off, those titles, yeah, you can't think of all of these things at once, but knowing that, you'll be more conscious to things that happen in conversation, and then you'll know. In one of your works entitled How to Use Psychology to Write a Successful Blog Post, you call upon three sources: the anecdote, the expert, and the personal connection. Why is this the winning structure for most stories, do you think?
I think most people read because they want something. And in order to access what they want, you have to build a connection with them, with the reader. It's hard to do this on paper or on a screen because, people are going to read your work who you have never met, who you'll never meet. You don't know anything about their lives. And you have to write something that still manages to hook into them. You have to somehow access the universal human experience to answer the problems that you might not even know that they have. So that's why I like to start with the anecdote, because I think that the almost conversely, the more specific you can get, the more relatable you're going to be to other people, other readers. And I like to use an anecdote at the start to kind of grab people's attention from the start, kind of fire up their imagination. Maybe this specific example hasn't happened to them, but they can put themselves in your shoes and see why you feel this way, why you did what you did, why they might be doing what they're doing as well. Once you've got them there, though, yeah, I do think that the expert needs to be drawn on, because this might be just a personal pet peeve, especially in the self-help realm. There's a lot of self-proclaimed experts who will tell you that you should do a certain thing or feel a certain way without
Mm-hmm.
backing that up with citations and sources. I Whenever I see that as a reader, my instinct is to be honestly disbelieving and skeptical, and I normally click away from whatever article I'm reading at that point. I think that if you want people to believe you and you want to build on that connection you've just built with them, you do have to pull in external sources, an expert in the field that you're citing, especially if you're like me and you're a hobby blogger, not a licensed psychologist or anything like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
No, no, you go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to finish with the sort of personal experience. I think I might have altered my template slightly since I wrote this article. I normally try to do a how you can do this at home now when I write these, because I think, yeah, the third thing, you want people to finish knowing how they should feel about what they've just read. You don't want to spoon feed it to them, but you want to lead them to the conclusion. And I think the how you can do it at home, or I guess the personal experience, that gives them that takeaway. You can say, all right, look, this happens to me. The experts validate it. Here's what you can do about it. And that kind of three-pronged strategy, that I think really resonates with people and gives them something to take away. They finish the article and they're like, all right, that was amazing. I know what I need to do next, or I want to share this with someone who I know might feel similarly. So that's my success.
Yeah, I found what you said about the expert element there so valuable, because I mean, we always feel, especially as entrepreneurs, as entrepreneurs, we're a very um, self-conscious bunch lots of the time, insecure about a lot of things. And something that I think of often is that, yeah, I never formally studied psychology, and but sourcing an expert, it gives you a little bit of that edge. I mean, you can't go around saying that you are a psychologist, but it gives you authority, and I think that's great. But backing up to story, like, why do you think story is the most profound method of making a point to people?
People don't believe expert. It's not that they don't believe experts, but if you start with an expert, most people already know more or less what the experts have to say on a subject. Or, you can say something, it's not going to come as a huge surprise. By
Mm,
using a personal element, you get to go on a deeper level. You're not lecturing people, you're empathizing with them. In the very first part of their story, you're explaining why you, even though you're not an expert, why you're the one writing this article, and why you understand how they feel and why they should continue reading. That's why I think, yeah, the story has got to be this most important part, because you're trying to get down on the same level with people you've never met and will never know, and still explain to them why this article is valuable for them.
well, and something I've noticed about all of your titles, I mean, I think this is actually how I discovered you on Medium, even before your YouTube, was all of your titles are very clickable without being clickbaity, and that's a hard line to draw. Like, how do you do that right within the first title? How do you get people in?
I always say it's an art, not a science. And I write good titles and I write bad titles, and I never know until I publish it and people either click on it or they don't click on it, to be totally honest with you. I think a good title has to do a couple of things if you want it to walk that narrow line between being enticing but not being clickbait. So the first thing I think is you have to give people a reason to click. And this sounds really obvious and self-explanatory, but why should a reader click on this? What are they going to gain? And you don't have to answer that question in the title. But so to give you an example, the 3 traits of toxic listeners, the question I'm answering with that title is, are you a toxic listener? And that a lot of people, I think, suspect or maybe feel like might know something like that, or they might themselves be like that. So that's the question I was trying to address with that title. You can kind of punch up the answer to that question by adding words that are going to get a bit of a response. I try to use really emotional words because, like I said, we're all emotional. We're not very logical people as a rule. So I try to go for words like, I don't like to overuse it, but like toxic, or more powerful ones like, refusal, or um, subtle. Yeah, it's something that's going to tell people, I feel about this. I'm not just going to lecture you. I'm going to come to you from a place where you know that I understand. And then this one is also easy to overlook. You want to tell them the format that they're going to get. So is it going to be a listicle? Is it going to be a how-to? Is it going to be a personal essay? Is it going to be a rant? By doing that, you might winnow down the window of people who might potentially be interested in it, but the people that do click, they're going to be much more interested in actually getting to the bottom of your story and reading what you have to say. And I think that's more important than just getting the first click. You want to get readers, not clickers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you do a great job of that. And this is why I say, like, to the audience, make sure follow Zulie Rane, because she pulled me in with her writing. So I mean, it works. How has writing improved your storytelling ability? You kind of answered that, but like, have you seen dramatic improvements with each piece?
It's not linear, I'll be honest. It zigzags, and it depends how I'm feeling that particular month. Like I had a couple months last year where I was kind of having a crappy time, and it made my writing suffer, and that's okay. You can't control every external factor in your life. But I can look back over 2 years that I've been writing, and I do see overall I am better than I was. And that's, I think, it's hard to say how I know. I guess the writing itself, like the turns of phrase or whatever, are probably, similar in quality. But maybe it's better to say, I know how to reach my readers better. I know how to write in a more valuable way. I know how to structure my articles so that I don't waste any time, and I get to the point and I get to the bottom and I deliver something that's valuable for the reader to take home. That's something that I've definitely improved on. I actually did a video on this not too long ago. I did like I don't know if you know, I do these like Write With Me live sessions where I write a blog post live for anybody who wants to join
I
me.
love those.
Yeah, they're so much fun to do. And Three Traits of Toxic Listeners, I actually took an older story that I wrote like a year and a half ago, totally revamped it, gave it a new title, rewrote it, tightened it, added experts. And going through that, I realized how much I'd changed and how much I'd gotten better, because I knew, going into personal detail is necessary, but this is way too much personal detail. It's great to cite an expert, but there's a better piece of knowledge I could include here. The conclusion's fine, but I want to give them a punchier takeaway. And going through that process, I guess I saw it's not the writing itself that's better. It's knowing how to be more valuable for the reader, if that makes sense.
It obviously depends on what you're writing, but is there generally a size that piece should stick towards, like 5 to 7 minutes or anything like that?
Yeah, I get this question a lot actually, and the answer is a bit of a waffly one. I'm not going to give you a straight yes or no. The article should be as long as it needs to be. And the way that I personally do this, I've got two methods. First of all, I read it to my mom. She has a very short attention span. And if she gets bored, I know it's too long and I try to cut it. And the second thing is I go through every single line, and sometimes I manually remove it. And if the article still makes sense, that sentence or paragraph or section, it doesn't need to be there. It doesn't add anything. I tend towards the more verbose side. So that's my personal issue. So I'm always trying to cut down. I have found that articles that I write that are over 8 to 9 minutes, they tend to be longer than they need to be. But more than that, I really can't say. It's sometimes you need to add more and sometimes you don't.
You bring up something interesting about being verbose. Like, this is something I've struggled with in my writing. I like words. Words are powerful, and it's good to use words to expand not only your own vocabulary, but what does it hurt to expand others? At the same time, if there's like 5 of these words back to back, people are just going to click away. So, like, how do you know which words are going to be that nice little touch that, oh, I learned a new word today, compared to, okay, this guy is Christopher Hitchens. He's way too.
Yeah. Again, there's no science. There aren't really rules that I find. I guess, like, if I had to think of a rule of thumb, I try not to put more than one obscure word per perhaps section. So I might try to stick to 3 or 4 jargony technical words per article, especially with the scientific ones or the ones where I'm citing from other sources. I try to make it so that anybody who has as much or as little psychological knowledge as I do can understand it without needing a degree or two to get through it. I think you should put some in just to add a little bit of spice and interest, because anybody can write. like, you know, a fifth grader. You do adding a couple extra words to spice it up can definitely elevate it. But yeah, maybe 3 to 4 max per article is where I would put my recommendation. I don't know. What about you?
Well, I'm still learning, so that's why I'm asking. I have found that there are words, as long as they're contextual, I guess that's what I've found. If like me, when I'm reading, I love words. So like I'll look up every word, even if I kind of
Mhm.
know on the
Yeah.
context what it means, I'll look it up anyway. But probably most people aren't like that. So yeah, as long as the context can keep the word in its proper place, I guess that's
Mhm.
the main thing I've kind of learned. But I'll tell you, it's still a work in progress for me.
Yeah, but like you say, there are people who love words and love to learn new words by reading. So to anybody who is in a similar boat as Derek, I would say it is good to try to value your reader and provide value for them, but also trust that there are enough people in the world who will like your writing just the way it is without having to make any massive modifications. If you want to have 20 big words that not many people understand in your article and you love that and you can rationalize it, then yeah, go for it and don't let me stop you.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think you'll ever go back to school to specifically study psychology? I mean, you've already spent a lot of time in school, it sounds like. So
Yeah, I do. You know what my call it a 30-year plan. I want to be retired before I'm 50. So I'm like every penny I earn, I squirrel it away to a retirement fund.
good for you.
And I would love to go back to school. Maybe if I take a sabbatical, maybe if I retire before I'm 50, I would love to go back to school and just learn more about psychology because I think most people love learning. And the reason we don't learn more is because we don't have time or money. And I hope to be at a point in my life when I have both and I can get formal education again. Yeah, I love doing my master's and I loved my undergraduate. It was really, really cool to learn from people who were at the top of their field and really cared about what they were doing. I'd love that.
Well, I guess you'll have to develop some sort of psychological complex to truly fit in, if psychologists are, no,
True.
I'm just kidding.
To develop some kind of disorder. Yeah.
What are your favorite publications on Medium for psychology?
Um, I have to be honest, Mind Cafe is my go-to to read about psychology. The reason there are a lot of really fantastic psychology publications. Forge is the one that Medium themselves own. They do fine work, but I like Mind Cafe because they walk the line that I think most writers try to walk of being popular, being accessible, while also being highbrow scientific. So they'll do popular interest stories that anybody will learn something from, but they'll back it up with real scientific proof. They'll have people who cite their sources. They'll quote actual experts in the field. And I find there aren't a lot of publications on Medium who do both of those as well as Mind Cafe.
Yeah, and My Cafe is very good. In fact, I think I even reviewed them in an article once, which you're not really supposed to do that on Medium, I know, but I like to break rules, I guess. Who are some of your favorite writers on Medium?
I have so many. I love a lot of the writing that I find on Medium. So I'll try to keep it brief. Okay. Probably my number one favorite writer is called Kyrie Gray. She writes humor. And the reason I value her writing so much is self-help writers, we're a dime a dozen. A lot of people can write the way I write. I have not found anyone on Medium anyway who writes kind of surreal, subversive way that Kyrie does. And I think she earns enough money on Medium to make it work for her. I haven't seen anybody else doing what she does. So she's probably not my number one, just in terms of uniqueness. My number two is gotta be Felicia Sullivan. She's like who I want to be when I grow up. She's so cool. She's a freelance marketer, writer, and what her writing, even though she has a very no nonsense business like tone, she has such nice turns of phrase. Her writing itself is an art, even though she's writing about business, entrepreneurship. She doesn't write, it's hard to describe. She writes prose. She writes very beautifully in all of her writing. And I know that not only will I learn something, I will enjoy the process of reading her words, if that makes sense. And third, again, it's hard to pick just one, but I'm gonna put Amardeep Parmar up there. He he's another self-help writer, but what I love about him is that he comes to it from a unique perspective. So he's British Indian, but he draws on like Japanese culture that he himself has experienced. He pulls from life experience to talk about, self-help, but also entrepreneurship and kind of how all these different factors tie together. And I'm trying to put my finger on why I like his writing so much. He's almost the opposite of Felicia. He's talking about very soft, waffly subjects, but in this very specific, I'm going to tell you what you're right about, what you're wrong about, and why I'm the best person to listen to. Like very no BS kind of writing tone.
Yeah, and it's funny that no BS writing tone that you're talking about. It is very good when it's executed properly, hey, because
Yeah.
it can just come across as arrogant. But sometimes it's what you need. It's like this is how it is, and anyone else can kiss my ass.
Yeah, exactly. I can't write like that, but Amar can. He absolutely kills it. Yeah.
Okay, so now I'd like to table the psychology stuff for a little bit and talk specifically about becoming a blogger and learning Medium itself. First of all, why would you start a YouTube channel about Medium? Like, aren't you worried about creating competition for yourself?
I think that the more good writers there are on Medium, the better all of us will do. Ultimately, what Medium wants is to have every single person in the world paying their $5 monthly membership fee for us writers. And if I can inspire someone to start writing who starts creating really good content and they attract new readers to the platform, everyone wins. There's no downside. Perhaps on a less economic mindset, I really believe that everyone should get to feel like I feel. Everyone should do what they love. And I really think there aren't enough writers in the world, no matter if it's on Medium or anywhere else. If everyone who wanted to write wrote, I do think that the world would be a better place. And that's my cheesy little my shtick.
But it's a valuable thing to say. I mean, we hear it all the time that follow your passion, but how many people end up doing what they don't want to do simply because of the financial constraints associated with it?
Yeah, and that's what makes Medium really unique, I think, on the internet. There's no other platform, and I have tried a lot. There is no
Hmm.
other platform that pays for good writing the way Medium does. People can start, like Amar, I mentioned to him, he started writing around this time last year, and he was making thousands of dollars in the first 6 months. Like, there's no other place on the internet where you can do that. You don't need to know anything about SEO, marketing. You don't really need to know about publications. You can just write, and if you write well in a way that people enjoy reading, you will make money. I
Yeah.
think people take it, a lot of people complain about Medium, how hard it is to get started, the injustice of the algorithm, but there's no better platform to make a living writing, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and you start to earn right away. That's the thing. What I find so neat is even if you're just making a few cents to start out, you can see it grow. It's just like YouTube, it's like
Yeah,
that
exactly.
extra video. It doesn't matter if you haven't learned the optimization and making a good thumbnail. You're going to see growth.
Mhm.
What sort of lifestyle has working from home afforded you?
So I live at home with my parents right now due to a lot of different factors, chief among them the pandemic. And so
Yeah.
my lifestyle working from home is, yeah, pretty nice. I spend a lot of time. Actually, I wonder if you can see her. Oh, sorry. With my cat,
Oh, there she is. What's her name?
Astrid. Hi, Astrid.
Astrid. She's cute.
Yeah, I've got another cat who spends more time out in the backyard. I go on a lot of dog walks. I do a lot of baking. I do a lot of reading. I play on my video game. That's actually, I think, probably the nicest thing about working from home as a freelancer is when I was working a 9 to 5, I was also working remotely, but during the hours of 9 to 6, I was 100% on the clock. I had to be answering emails. I had to be working towards stuff. I had a manager to answer to. Whereas now, if I decide that I finished my work at 12, or if I decide that I don't really want to work that day, I can do that. And I can just spend the whole day recharging or resting or running or anything else that I feel like. And that's probably the nicest thing is just owning my own schedule.
Yeah, and you know what it's like, at least based on what I've heard on your YouTube channel. You know exactly what it's like to balance an outside, not a non-writing job with a writing or a passion project on the side. How do you balance those two? I have a hell of a time with that personally.
I'm glad I don't have to anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough because I felt like I was never giving everything I had to either my job or my writing career. And I have found that since stopping working, I have been doing a lot better at my writing side. It was hard. And honestly, I think that if you don't love what you do, it's very, very, very tough. I was giving every free hour I had to doing YouTube videos, editing YouTube videos, writing on Medium, forming relationships with people who write on Medium, answering questions, answering emails, trying to get new clients. I was probably working 70 or 80 hours a week, combining my two jobs because it was just impossible to do everything. And that was actually part of the reason I got to a point where I was earning similar amounts from both. And I decided that I was in the right position to take a gamble and focus on my full-time freelance career.
Yeah. And did you find that things really spiked as soon as you did that?
Yeah, it was weird because not only did my income spike, but also the amount of time I had to spend massively decreased because I had time to sit back, strategize, plan, outsource. So, for example, I will tell you, I hate editing YouTube videos. It takes me forever. I'm not that good at it. I outsource this to someone who does all the work for me, and he's amazing. He does such good work, and I love that. And that saved me so much time. But I've been able to scale back on the stuff that took me a lot of time and didn't earn me a lot of money because with extra time, I could see what those activities were, and I could spend more time focusing on the ones that were lower time investment, higher output. So yeah, just fantastic.
Hmm. You frequently do income reveals on your channel, so I'm not too shy in asking these questions. What sort of earning potential is there for people on Medium or just blogging generally?
So there's two types of earning on Medium. And I want to be clear, for people who want to earn money solely by writing on Medium, the potential is there. The sky's the limit. I know people, I personally don't, but I know people who make $10,000 a month writing on Medium. But only 10% of all writers on Medium, sometimes less than that, make over $100. So the vast majority of people don't make real money on Medium. Like when I first started writing, any penny from writing was amazing and a miracle. But if you want to make real money on Medium, you have to be good and special and determined if you want to actually earn a living on Medium. But a lot of people don't realize that Medium is actually a huge platform for other types of writing income. I've built I actually just totted this up. I earned $7,763 in January from freelance
Wow.
writing. All of that stems from Medium. Like Medium was a big chunk of that, but I think Medium was $3,000 of that this month, which means that nearly
Really?
5,000 of that was from my freelance clients who mostly come to me through Medium, my YouTube channel, my Patreon, both of which revolve around Medium, and my other partnerships. Like I do a newsletter with three other writers called Write Your Future. We earned a ton of money from that this month. Again, revolved around Medium. Don't think of Medium as your number one cash cow. It is your vehicle to becoming a freelance writer.
And for those of you tuning in, like make sure you visit Zulie's channel because she shows you all of those aspects. In fact, you'll have so much homework by the time you're done that you might not even get around to writing any articles. No, I'm just kidding. But so you talked about what you made in January, but how much did you earn for 2020, say? I know you did a reveal on this, so.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. So I know from Medium, I made, I think it was $26,000 altogether. It was probably somewhere around 15,000 from the other ventures that I was earning money from writing. So 40,000, probably around in the vicinity of 40,000 last year
Oh, good
from
for you.
freelance writing. And then yeah, I quit my job October, and that was when things started to really take off for me.
Yeah, yeah. So it'll only go up from here. And speaking of which, what are your goals for 2021? Personal and entrepreneurial.
Entrepreneurial, I'll start with that because it's the easiest for me. I want to be making over $10,000 per month by the end of 2021. I think, like I said, I'm working 15-hour weeks. If I was making $5,000 a month, I would be happy and count myself lucky to have that lifestyle. But like I said, I want to retire early. So I would love to be making $10,000 a month by the end of the year. From a more personal perspective, I'm writing a fiction book. I'm following
Great.
my childhood dream, and I am writing a book, and I am hoping to have that done by the end of the year. I'm not expecting it to be published. I'm just doing it for fun, but I do want to have that. I want to self-publish it myself so I can call myself an author and hold my own book in my hands.
Well, you're well on track for both of your goals there. So, okay, let's just assume I've never heard of Medium in my life. Okay. What kind of platform is this exactly, and how does one get started? How does the pay structure work? I know you're probably sick of explaining this sort of thing, but
No, I explained it so much that I do have a pretty good answer, hopefully. So, Medium is a blogging platform kind of combined with a social media platform. So, on Medium, you can write something and it will be distributed to people who are interested in the topics that you enjoy writing about. If you don't have any followers, which none of us do when we come to Medium, that means that you're not limited by that lack of followers. The distribution of Medium is really what makes it special as a blogging platform. Unlike WordPress, unlike a lot of other blogging platforms, all you have to do is write. Medium takes care of everything else, including the promotion, the marketing, the distribution. In terms of earnings, people pay $5 a month to become Medium members. And that means that when a Medium member reads one of your stories, you get a portion of their membership, their monthly membership fee. And this ranges from, I don't know, like I earned $3,000 in January from writing on Medium. I know people who make more, I know people who make less. The way what I really think is so special about that is it incentivizes you not just to write one-off clickbait articles, to write content that people care about, that they read, they get to the bottom of it, they engage with it, they spread it further. The better you're writing, the more valuable you are for readers, the better your content will perform. You're financially monetized to write good stuff, not clickbait, not content mills, but good high quality writing. And I think that's all any writer wants.
so what is curation exactly? It's there is, getting kind of suggested the way YouTube suggests videos, but what is full on curation through Medium?
Yeah, so Medium have taken it upon themselves to decide what good writing is. It's subjective, as I mean, nobody can really say this is good, this is bad, but they
Hmm.
do have a set of standards that they ask their writers to adhere to. So it can't be clickbait, it has to be well written, free of typos, and just add something to the conversation. And obviously, no plagiarism or anything like that. When a piece of content is written that meets those standards, that's when it becomes what Medium calls curated or distributed. And that's how you get access to the eyeballs of people who aren't necessarily your followers today. So it's hard to explain curation to a novice because it is subjective. It's Medium saying, yes, we think this is good. We want to show this to other people who are interested in the topics that you've written about. But it's simplest just to think of this like good writing. If you can perform good writing to Medium standards that they're very clear about, they lay it all out in their guidelines, then your writing will be seen by a much wider audience than you'll be getting anywhere else on the internet.
Hmm. And so, like, getting curated is important, but as you mentioned earlier, there are other ways of making an income on Medium. That's right, right?
Mhm.
And what are some of those ways, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so I think the most straightforward one is what I would call brand journalism. Brand journalism normally refers to writing good content on behalf of a brand. I'm often hired to do brand journalism on Medium, but you can also represent yourself. So what you want to do is create content on Medium that answers a question that a potential client of yours might have. If you do coaching, if you sell anything, if you want to drive traffic to your website, if you want to get signups for Instagram, whatever the case may be, try to write content that attracts those readers. Medium has a very high domain authority, and this means that if people are searching for anything on Google, something written on Medium is much, much higher to come up earlier on in the results than anywhere else, like WordPress or Squarespace. Um, Simultaneously, there are a lot of readers on Medium. So even if you don't know anything about SEO, you might tap into that audience and find interested customers. Again, no matter what it is you're trying to sell them, who would be interested in your stuff. Medium is not a place for ads. Is it a place for good, well-written content that is interesting to people who want to read about it? So as long as your content is about quality and value rather than sales, you can reach those readers and still convince them to follow, buy, subscribe, anything you want.
Hmm.
That's the number one way. That's the one I'm most familiar with. You can also do things like affiliate links. Not very familiar with affiliate links, so I won't spend too much time on them. You can try to get like traffic to your website, so you can post on your own Squarespace blog or wherever it is that you own, and then cross promote onto Medium. And if you import it using their native import tool, you can kind of piggyback on Medium's domain authority while Google will still link your blog post in the Google results, if that makes sense. It's a little technically complex. And then, of course, on your own website, you can monetize with ads or anything else. And then more generally, you can use it as a portfolio. Medium is a very clean, neat place to write where the focus is on the words, not on the formatting or anything else. And there are a lot of people who might read what you write, like happens to me a lot, and they say, hey, this is really nice. We would like to hire you to write more of this kind of stuff, but on our website or on our newsletter or anything else. And that's the freelance clients that you get from Medium are really high caliber because they're used to reading the stuff that you write. They're used to reading that kind of quality, and they're likely to hire you to create more of what you already enjoy writing about.
And
That's the
so,
end of the list. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry. So those people are from not necessarily from on Medium. They might just be people who read and have their own sort of brand they're trying to grow. And oh wow, that's impressive. And I've also noticed that you're an editor on what was the publication you're an editor for?
I'm an editor for Zulie Writes, which is my own personal publication, if that's the one you're asking about.
I thought I read somewhere that you were an editor for another one, but anyway, I understand that that is one way that you can also make some extra income, right? Is by editing other people's work. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So I think possibly I did an interview with somebody called Jordan Gross, who is an editor for Mind Cafe. And he, again, relationships matter. He got the gig because he knew someone who needed an editor. And the owner of Mind Cafe contacted him and hired him to edit that work. But you don't have to do this through a publication. You can do it just by posting about your services, offering them for free to other people. And then when you build a bit of a reputation, you can then start to charge for them. I make some money every month from folks who submit their articles to me for me to edit. And I do a structural review. I make sure that it's all grammatically and spellingly correct. And then I suggest like a publication and a couple tags. Anybody can do that. That is a little harder to do because you do have to add in the marketing work of promoting yourself as an editor on Medium.
Sure. Well, good for you that you can drum up all these different ways of making an income or even just boosting your brand name kind of thing, you know. Um, something that a question that comes up a lot, you know, like on YouTube, for example, your niche is talking about medium. Mine is like philosophy and kind of existential questions of life. That's kind of my focus. Do you have to have a niche on Medium?
That, in my opinion, is one of the nicest things about Medium. You don't, because curation and distribution is driven by topics, not by followers. You can write about anything you want: psychology, cats, feminism, digital culture, books. I'm trying to think of all the stuff I've written about recently, writing. And because Medium will only show writing to people who have already shown that they're interested in that topic, you ensure that if you write about cats one day and psychology the next, you won't have a bunch of people who are like, oh, wait, I thought she only did cat stuff, and who unfollow you. Unless they're also interested in the second topic, they'll only ever see the first. You might find, as I've found, that you're better at writing in certain areas. So I used to write about relationships and all kinds of stuff like that. And I found that I just wasn't able to reach readers in the same way that other writers were. I found that I was best at writing about psychology, self-help, cats. I'm looking at my cat over here. Those were my sort of strongholds. I still write about anything I want because sometimes you want to write about stuff even if you know it's not going to do well. But for the most part, your readers will let you know what your niche is, and your niche will be anything you like writing about. Really, it's much less constrained than traditional blogging.
Yeah, I know a lot of people on YouTube have just went on about how popular cat videos are. Is there kind of a similar phenomenon on Medium?
I do think there's a real audience of cat lovers on Medium, and maybe pet lovers in general. I mean, cats are popular all over the internet, right? There's no getting away from that fact. I started on Medium writing about my cats, and my first viral article was about my cats. So I do think there is some truth to it.
So 6 of your articles went viral on Medium in 2020. Like, how the hell did you pull that off? Did you know that those particular articles would take off or?
The first one that went viral, I wrote it out of spite. I'd seen a similar-ish article, like it was another listicle about habits that people have. And I saw that it was popular on Medium. And I had never had anything popular on Medium at that point. And I was like, well, if this writer can do that, why can't I? Why can't I create something like that? And I drafted what I considered to be a clickbaity title. I did a listicle, I backed it up with science, and it went viral. It got like, I want to say like 100,000 views in the first couple of days, which I had never
Wow.
seen numbers like that before. And I was honestly, I couldn't believe it. It had never happened to me. And then when that happened, I knew it was possible. And although I write articles that, I mean, ideally, I would love it if everything I wrote went viral. Obviously, that's not the case, but I have been able to replicate that process to, I mean, 5 times really. So I wrote one about 4 traits of toxic or insecure girlfriends that went viral. That was one that I wrote expressly to that purpose. And I've had a couple of other like psychological tricks or hacks that I wrote specifically to go viral. The two that caught me by surprise, I wrote one about this random thing I saw on Twitter. It was about this math girl who did a TikTok and people started hating on her and then loving on her. And I thought the whole thing was so interesting. I wrote it up in like 45 minutes and I published it. And the next day I woke up and it had 50,000 views.
Wow.
Again, it was that magical feeling that I wrote something that I cared about and turned out a heck of a lot of other people cared about it too. That was really fun. And then I wrote one about freelancing that I also didn't expect to go viral. Had a similar realization. I woke up the next day and it had like 15 or 20,000 views. I'd never had anything viral in freelancing before. That was a brand new experience for me. And that's kind of what jump-started my trajectory into writing and creating more YouTube freelancing content. I realized there was a market for it, and I realized that I could, to some degree, fill that appetite.
Yeah. Is there, like, we know how big of a cultural sensation TikTok has become. Is there any way of hobbling off of that, or is there any content on Medium that writes specifically about TikTok? Have you seen anything like that?
I have seen a couple people try. I have not seen anybody do particularly well. I myself have a TikTok. So on YouTube, maybe like a month or two ago, they started promoting shorts, 60-second or less videos. So I started posting minute-long videos on both YouTube and TikTok. It really helped my YouTube channel, but it didn't do, I think I have like 50 on TikTok and I get like maybe 100 views per video, which is not very much. Um, so I'm sure it's possible. I have not seen anybody do so.
Medium has never been my main hustle.
Mhm.
I'm proud to have earned a couple of bucks here and there, but I'm not consistent at all, as my focus is YouTube. See, my biggest struggle is that I'm a perfectionist.
Mhm.
Sometimes it takes me like 3 days to write a piece I'm really proud of, and I have no problem, publishing. Um, I know you'd never advise a writer to sacrifice their quality. What can people like me do to get over the perfectionist mindset?
I think what's worked best for me has been kind of twofold, and it hasn't been changing anything. It's just been changing my mindset more than anything else. The first has been viewing writing as art. I don't know if you've ever painted, but I dabble a little bit just for fun. And you never finish. There's always more you can do to a painting. And writing's the same. It's never done. You can always add a word. You can always tighten it. You can always add extra information. There's always more you can do to improve it. Hitting publish doesn't stop that. It just means that you've decided that your time with that piece has come to an end. And just knowing that it's okay to have something that's imperfect because other people are not looking at your article as a full, complete, end all, be all objective item. It's a piece of art, same as a painting. And, you know, no matter, even if you do get it perfect to one person's standards, it's not going to be perfect to somebody else's. And hitting publish is just you sort of wrapping it in a bow and just saying, I have done my best with this, it is done. And the second thing was kind of giving myself permission to go back to stories. Like I said, in 2 years of writing on Medium and even a year of creating videos on YouTube, I can look back at my older stuff and I can see I have improved so much just from sheer repetition. And I know that giving myself permission to go back to older stuff and making it better, it means that when I write something today and I know it's not my best, I'm like, well, It may not be my best today, but in a year or 6 months, I can come back to this and I can improve it from there. This is not the end. This is not this piece coming to the end of its life. This is just the next iteration in a journey.
Have any of those re-edited pieces seen financial success, like, or taken off?
Yeah, so the 3 traits of toxic listeners did really well. It did, I think the first time I published it, it had maybe like 800, 900 views, and it earned like $10 or $15. And in its current life, it has earned, one second, I'll just get it up. I know it has about 7,000 views, not viral, but still very good for
Oh,
me.
that's impressive. Yeah, it's a huge jump.
Yeah, and it has earned me over $200. So
Well, if I had $15 in one hand or $200 in the other, which would you choose, right?
exactly. And medium means I get both. And that's the nicest thing is, yeah, it's when I wrote that story, I still remember a year and a half ago. It's on a touchy subject. Like my friend committed or tried to commit suicide, and I couldn't help her, and that was really hard to deal with. And it meant that my writing wasn't very good about it. It was clunky and awkward, and because I tried to dance around the topic. And coming back to it this time, I still didn't do a perfect job, but I did better than before, and that's all I can ask for.
Oh, well, good for you. How many projects are you working on at any given moment? Like, and I'm not necessarily talking about ones that you can always come back to. I'm talking like 5 spreadsheets that are open or whatever.
Do you mean like drafts, or like what do you
Yeah,
mean?
drafts, sorry, not spreadsheets.
Yeah, no, I was like, well, I actually have a spreadsheet open right now, but uh, probably. So I've got my medium drafts. I probably have 1 or 2 on the go at once. Then I've got drafts for clients, 3, 4 maybe at a time. And then I would consider a YouTube video a draft. So 1 or 2 of those at the same time. A lot. In conclusion.
What are the most successful categories of story on YouTube or YouTube Medium?
I think for me, there's no right answer. There's no one single answer, because I am personally, I think I'm best at writing about psychology, self-help, and how that intersects with digital culture. For me, that's the most profitable type of story. For somebody else, they might find that writing about relationships or writing about financial news, or I don't know, sports, that's their niche. That's what their readers respond best to. And I mean, there will be overlap with your interests, and there will be overlap with like the audience size on Medium. Like, I think there are more people on Medium who care about self-help than care about pets, as an example. But the likelihood is that I'm never going to reach every single person who likes pets or self-help. You're better off just finding how you can access the biggest group of those readers. And for me, that's psychology. For somebody else, it'll be something else.
You ever find a point where you've written so much on certain topics, or you just can't find an original piece to write on that day? You ever have days like that?
I guess that's the nice thing about psychology is there's new research coming out every single day, multiple times a day in some cases. So I just have to look at Google Scholar or NCBI. They've got some really nice journals that they open to everyone to have access to. And there's always something new. But I do have days that I feel like I can't do them justice. Like, I do have days that I am tired of writing about psychology or whatever. And that's kind of what I mean. You have to give yourself permission. You can't always write for a paycheck. You have to write for yourself sometimes. So like I'm trying to think what I wrote that I knew wouldn't do well. I wrote a story about why I was writing a book that wasn't going to earn money. I knew it wasn't going to do well, but I wanted to get it off my chest, and it was fun to write.
How can one be what you've called a good medium citizen? I think you actually wrote a whole. Was that an article or was that a video you did
I
about
think it
being a
was a
good?
video.
It was a
Yeah.
video, and how does that translate into your overall success on the platform?
So I think being a good medium citizen boils down to just a couple of things, really. First of all, be aware that you, as a reader, are the reason that writers are earning money. And although it's possible to circumvent the paywall if you open like an incognito tab or anything, just remember that you are stiffing Medium, but you're also stiffing the writers of the work that you enjoy. And if you can afford it, consider paying $5 a month, because it's not that much to get unlimited access to the writers who are pouring their heart and soul into the work they do. And if you enjoyed it, think about leaving a comment, or you don't have to leave a comment. You can I do this all the time. When I read something I love, I try to find the person on social media, or If I'm already friends with them on Facebook, I'll send them a message and say, hey, I loved this article. This is why I loved it. It, you know, it didn't change my life, but it was really, really good to read. That writing is a thankless task. Sometimes you feel like you're just flinging content out into the void. And knowing that what you wrote had an impact, even on just one person, it's just a really nice way to feel. And I think that also helps, more on a selfish way, that helps build relationships that might come back and help you in the future. And I think the last thing I would say is trying to keep it positive. I know a lot of people leave nasty comments. Just remember there are real writers, real people behind the screens who have kind of, yeah, put something vulnerable out there for you to enjoy and dissect. And that's hard to do.
On the topic of being a good citizen, I had the weirdest encounter. I happened across a writer I really liked. So I commented positively on his post, and he had a fair amount of followers. Then the next day, I received hundreds of views. And now, granted, none of the views resulted in long read times. I mean, I'm sure some of them did, but the average was really low. But I commented anyway because I genuinely like his work. And consistently, every time I do this on his stories, I receive hundreds of reads right away. What do you think's going on there?
That's so interesting. It's not something I've experienced, but
No?
I don't typically leave comments. I mostly reach out to people directly, if that makes sense. If I had to guess, if you're one of the earlier readers and you comment maybe before anyone else gets a chance to read it, it's possible that people then go on to read the article and then check out, like they go down to the comment section, check out your profile. It could be that the author might be sharing your work because they enjoy getting your comments, and they'll say, oh, check out Derek. He's written some really cool stuff. I don't know. It's interesting. If you find out, let me know.
Yeah, it's really strange. And some other people have commented on this and they're like, what's going on with this guy? You know, and I don't know, he's a great guy too. It's not just a bot or anything, you know, there's a
Right,
real
right.
face behind it. So yeah, I'll let you know if I ever get to the bottom of it. Now here's something that I think about a lot. I've noticed that Medium is a hotbed for progressive social activism. You probably noticed that yourself. And I don't really have a problem with that. But will being a conservative blogger hurt your success or ability to fit into the platform, do you think?
I have seen plenty of conservative viewpoints on Medium. They curate them the same as, you know, more liberal lefty points into politics, into culture, into whatever. Different viewpoints don't necessarily mean that it's like bad writing, no matter what detractors of Medium's platform may think. I have seen lots of conservative viewpoints curated. That being
Yeah.
said, they do have partnerships with, like if you go to the Medium homepage, the trending, that I suspect, I should probably put on my got a conspiracy theory hat. No proof of this, but
I love this.
I think that they handpick the trending list. I don't know for sure, but that's my suspicion. So you'll see a lot of the trending stuff will be more of liberal ideology.
Yeah. Is there anything like, and I mean, I personally don't have any worries about this because I'm pretty left myself, but it's just something I noticed. Like, is there any topics you would say that just will fall flat simply because of the kind of content it is? Like a very extreme example would be like Holocaust denial. Like, yeah, that's kind of not acceptable speech. But is there anything like that you can think of just wouldn't perform?
I mean, Medium has clear guidelines on what is and isn't allowed. And like, yeah, Holocaust denial is on there, I think, as misinformation or something.
As it
Um,
should be, as it should be.
right, right. As long as it's not hate speech, though, there's no reason that it wouldn't do well. Again, it's all about finding the readers. And if you're writing into a publication that has a bunch of engaged readers, if you're writing, you're getting curated into a topic that has engaged readers, then no matter what you're writing about, I found that you should do well. I guess partially because I am lefty myself, I've more gravitated to people who write about more liberal subjects. So
Mm,
I can't say with any exact data what would happen if you wrote about why, I don't know, conservative politics are better than liberal politics. I have no idea, whatever. Um, I
well,
suspect, yeah, go
sorry to
ahead, go ahead.
interrupt. Here's a
No, no.
hypothetical. Like, have you seen any articles, and you're on Medium more than me, so you'd know better, but have you seen any Medium articles that do take up kind of Trump's mantle on, that the election was stolen, for example, which is a very kind of hotbed thing to talk about. Have you seen any articles like that perform on Medium?
I haven't, but Medium only recommends to me stuff that's similar to what I've read in the past, and I
Fair
haven't
enough.
read stuff like that in the past. I mostly see stuff about writing and stuff about psychology because that's primarily what I read in.
Which is probably more healthy anyway.
Probably.
Yeah. Well,
I
thank you
mean,
so much. I mean, this has all been such helpful advice and everything. You were just about to mention something. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna have a quick look to see if I could find anything on Medium. I don't even know what the search terms would be. Stop the steal. Yeah, I can't find anything coming up.
Yeah.
It might also be that, as you say, it is a kind of a hotbed for liberal policies. And so writers come on there who might be from more conservative backgrounds, go on there and say, like, you know what, I really don't think that there is an audience for what I want to write about here, and then just go write somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't like it, then you can get out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, no, all of that's been really helpful, Zulie. For those of you watching, make sure you do subscribe to Zulie Rane. I'll include a link of her channel below in the description and in the end screen of this video. If you believe writing on Medium is something that you're interested in as a side hustle, make sure you tune into her Write With Me live workshops. I've tuned into them a few times. They're really good, and they just help you see the process, and that's what's really great about them, right? And I'll also include links to your website and socials in the description below. Is there something that you think you'd like to plug there, or anything you'd like to mention maybe about those lives you do or anything?
Yeah, the lives are welcome to anyone. I love doing them. It's an hour every Friday I set aside. I just write a blog post live. I kind of like to think of it as like a writing cafe kind of atmosphere. I would love to plug my newsletter, my paid newsletter that I'm doing with 3 other writers. It's called Write Your Future, and it just every week we answer one question about success, whether it's on Medium or somewhere else. We've talked about good strategies for beginners, mistakes to avoid, how to get into publications, and we just each offer a unique perspective on that question. It's been so much fun to write, and we've had a really good reception so far, and it's $10 a month. So if you want to subscribe, please feel free.
Right on, right on. Well, and best of luck with all of your adventures here in 2021. And yeah, thank you so much for your time, Zulie. It was great meeting you and having this chat today.
Yeah, likewise, Derek. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Hey guys, did you like this video? You know what to do. And if something I mentioned today resonated with you, click one of them cards on this screen. I have lots of related content sure to interest you. Thanks as always for your views, and we'll see you next time.